Welcome to Plant-Based FM, a podcast about fitness, mindset, food and muscle, with your host, plant-based fit mum, Natasha.
Welcome to Plant-Based FM and another solo episode with me, your host, Natasha Evans. I am talking about the M word. Can you guess what one it is yet? Muscle, but also menopause. So, why am I talking about these two things? Well, I'm going to share with you 6 points or 6 reasons, valid reasons as why you should be looking to lift weights if you're not already doing so and you are either perimenopausal or going through the menopause. Such a difficult time with over 30 odd symptoms that you could be having to deal with. You may or may not be experiencing all of them, and you may get some of them. But if I go through some of these points and explain as to why strength training will help you, hopefully it could alleviate some of these symptoms or lessen them for you and just make life a little bit more bearable. It's a tough time for both men and women because although it's the females that are going through the menopause, it does affect obviously partners as well. And you know we want to try and keep some of harmony, I should say, or harmonious relationship going with our partners. And if we can do things to help ourselves of a natural way, naturally we can go to the doctors. Absolutely, should we need intervention, because the hormones are all over the shop. We have a decline in estrogen, progesterone and testosterone as we go through the menopause, and you know it shouldn't be a taboo subject to reach out to the doctors and see what can be offered to help you, and whether that is HRT, hormone replacement therapy, or gels, or any of the combination of things that you can do. Definitely make an appointment with the doctors if you are suffering with any symptoms, because the first point or the line in the sand is actually getting a blood test done to see where your FSH and LSH, your follicular stimulating hormones and luteal stimulating hormones are, and they can then gauge where you are on that lovely menopause merry-go-round. So the first point that I wanted to talk about was why lifting weights. Firstly, it doesn't make you big and bulky. It takes a lot of dedication, time, effort, and lifting heavy loads to, get seriously muscly. We're just not built like men. But what we can do is tone and sculpt our body. But the first point I wanted to talk about is when we're going through the menopause, and not just the menopause in general, stress is all around us. Unfortunately, menopause can exacerbate that. So by lifting weights, studies have shown strength training can absolutely help reduce anxiety and improve depression as well. And when you think about it, when we have some of these symptoms that can be really debilitating, they absolutely are going to affect us mentally, not least chemically as well, because of the fluctuating hormones. So, as I mentioned earlier, estrogen and progesterone are on their decline as we go through the menopause, and that unfortunately leaves us less able to cope with life stresses. And having spoken to quite a few women in the gym, I think there's a consensus that we're less likely to put up that facade or that filter, shall we say, on how we feel. A lot of women I've heard are now saying what they actually think. That could be good or bad, depending on where you come, or you fit on that spectrum. And in some ways, I think that's quite empowering, because we're not holding back, biting our tongue. But at the same time, if you've always been looking to please other people, that can come as a bit of a shock. We want to reduce our stress. It's not healthy to be continually stressed. That therein lies a dis-ease, the body at disease, which does result in disease, as Dr. Joe Dispenza has talked about before. So when you incorporate strength training into your weekly workouts, you can help release those positive endorphins, the serotonin, the dopamine, that can improve your well-being and your state of mind. So that's the first point. And I think it's quite common, whilst it can be called different things, hot flashes are a real common occurrence and probably the most notable of the menopause. And a study done by Dr. Roseanne Woods showed that women who had less body fat, so more muscle than body fat, so lean body mass, had reduced vasomotor symptoms of menopause by up to 70%. And I found another study where resistance training was implemented for 15 weeks. I believe it was quite a small cohort, so only 58 females. But it showed a decrease in the frequency and severity of moderate and severe hot flushes amongst postmenopausal women. So if there's anything that's going to benefit, naturally we can take evening primrose oil, and we can obviously resort to the doctor's HRT, as I mentioned before. But if we can do some things ourselves before we even reach for medication, whether that obviously is herbal or naturally drugs, then we're in a good place, aren't we? And I thought that was quite positive, because that's one of the biggest symptoms that I think women do suffer with. It can be particularly bad at night time, so nighttime flushes or flashes that can leave you dripping. And I do know what they feel like, because I'm living with them myself, and it's pretty horrible, and it can affect your sleep, and that's not great either. So get training. I'm going to keep on saying this, ladies. Point 3, I wanted to talk about why. Well, naturally, as we're going through the menopause, we tend to find that our body shape changes, and we predominantly start carrying more fat around our middle, and gain weight on the scales. This is a combination, obviously, of our metabolism slowing down, and obviously those fluctuating hormones, or that decrease in estrogen, which unfortunately is attributed to that fat. But strength training can help you rev up that decrease in metabolism, so that in itself, if you have more muscle mass, ladies, you can then burn more fat even when you're resting. So if you think about it, your body, the more muscle fibers that you have on the body, the more energy that they need, so the food that you eat. And when you're obviously eating good food, that protein, that actually takes more time for your body to digest, so again that burns lots of calories. But for all you cardio bunnies, I'm really not against cardio. I've come into fitness more as a runner than I did strength training, but I have literally switched that round, and my focus is definitely on strength, and I've hung up the running shoes for now, because I understand the importance. Now, running is absolutely fantastic. When I say I've hung up the running shoes. I haven't, because I'm still using them, but I haven't put myself into any races at the moment. Running is great for mental health as well. It's a great way to while away the stresses of the day, especially if you run with friends. It can be such a cathartic experience. It's great to be out with nature. So if that's something that you really do enjoy, I absolutely do advocate that you do still do it. But my point is that you don't want to lose your muscle mass, and if you train to extreme with running or cardio, unfortunately that's what can happen. Although there are the positive sides of it as well, that it is helping load the bones, because the footfall that you are doing, there are caveats. You just need to decide where you're at. So if you are enjoying your running, keep on doing it, but incorporate some strength training as well, because that will help support your running, because you really do need to have strong glutes to avoid you picking up any injury niggles through the consistent running. And I wanted to go on to, because I was just mentioning about the bones there with the running. Unfortunately, as we get older, for us females, we are more prone to that osteoporosis risk following menopause. It's because the estrogen is needed to help lay down bone, and we don't regenerate any new bone above the age of 30. What we've got is what we've got. We can improve the bone density, and that's why, again, it's really important to strength train for this. So loading your bones is the saying. And naturally, obviously, if you're running, you are going to be doing that to a certain extent. But you need to incorporate both. So it's really, really important to load those bones. Why? Because we don't want to put ourselves at an increased risk of falling when we're older and then breaking a bone because they're more brittle. So as I say to ladies, it's a little bit like thinking your bones are either like a whisper, where the whole of that chocolate bar are really, really small, as opposed to, say, an aero, where the bubbles in that aero are really, really big. So if you think of that like your bones, which one could you snap more easily? So we want them to be really, really small. So we've got increased bone density so that they are stronger. Naturally, your diet is going to be so important in helping that as well. But just from the point of view of the training, if you can load your bones with resistance training, it is recommended to do 2 strength training sessions a week. That is, not just the UK guideline, but global guideline for health and well-being of not just women, but men as well. It can also help halt that muscle loss. So why do we want to stop muscle loss per se? Well, naturally, if we're losing that muscle, then we are lowering that metabolism, and therefore we can't eat as much. And who doesn't want to eat? So we want to keep as much muscle as possible. But unfortunately, your metabolism decreases by about 5% by every decade as we lose that muscle tissue. So it's really important to maintain what we've got and try to build. So you're trying to swim against the tide a little bit by incorporating that strength training. So it's a case of lifting weights that challenge you. You've got to feel that you're hitting failure when you are lifting those weights. You can't keep with the same 3 kg dumbbells, otherwise your body will acclimatise and adapt to that, and then again you're going to find that actually you're going backwards because you're not pushing your body to have to grow the fibres. So essentially what happens when you lift weights that are challenging and the body's not used to it, you get afterwards, and it's not always the case, but you can get that delayed onset muscle soreness, DOMS. Essentially, when you're lifting those weights, you're creating these micro tears in those muscle fibres, and the muscle fibres are like, if you think of them, hundreds of them, like a packet of dry spaghetti. When they repair, when you eat good protein and to facilitate obviously that repair and growth, they grow back a little bit stronger, and that's how you end up building that muscle. And why do we want to build muscle? Again, because we don't want to look like men. We want to be able to carry our body frame as we age. This is why people get frail when they get older, because their muscle mass has declined, and then they become more unstable. So if you have good bones, you have a good amount of muscle, you're less likely to fall. And if you're less likely to fall, you're less likely to hurt yourself. So it's really important to maintain that muscle. But also from an aesthetics point of view, we want to sculpt our body. So unfortunately, we know what's happening with estrogen, and we know that we're going to accumulate that fat. Where does it predominantly come? Around the middle, around our thighs, around our bum. Generally can happen obviously around the arms, the big no wings. What we want to do is we want to keep as much muscle in those areas as possible, so that we have a good body shape. So what we don't want to do is lose lots of weight and then find that we've got flabby skin because there's nothing in there. We've lost the fat, and now the skin is just, hanging from, say, our elbow to our shoulder. We don't want those bingo wings, so we do want to train and lift weights so that we can replace that with muscle if we need to lose weight or just tone our body. So it's not necessarily about the number on the scale, because you could drop 5 pounds of fat and gain 5 pounds of muscle. It would take quite a lot of time to gain the muscle in comparison to losing the fat, but the scale wouldn't look any different, but you would look different in the mirror. And that is the goal that you're aiming for. So not chasing the scales and looking at that scale weight, but really looking at pictures. So do take pictures, ladies, of yourself, front, back and side. You can video yourself on your phone and then just pause and snap the pictures if you haven't got anyone to do it for you, and regularly do that. I would recommend doing that at least once a month so that you can keep that chronological data to see that your body is changing. And if we've got that muscle, we're just going to fit better in our clothes, aren't we? It's going to look nicer. So who wants a saggy bum? I'm furiously trying to grow my glutes. It's hard work, ladies. It is hard work, I'm not going to lie. But it never stops. And there are so many inspiring women out there in their 60s, their 70s, their 80s. And some of these ladies didn't take up strength training until those latter years, and the results have still been phenomenal. So don't ever think you've missed the boat, it's too late, I can't do it, it's not for me. There's no such word as I can't, or it's impossible. It's I'm possible. So just give it a go, try and lift the weights, but remember, if you're not challenging your body, it will not change. So it has to be a bit painful, I'm not going to lie. You have to be pushing those weights till you start feeling it hurt in those muscles. And you won't always get DOMs after, because some muscles will be more used to it and stronger, but you want to consistently keep lifting and obviously making sure that you are doing all of your muscle groups in a variety of movements. So what I would say as a personal trainer, you want to move through the compound movements. So they would be your squat, your hinge, your press, your lift, and your push press over your head. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different exercises that you can do for the different muscle groups. Don't get bogged down by that. Just get moving and just start using those weights. I was going to say throw the weights around, but I don't advocate for that. I really am passionate about mindful movement and mind muscle connection when you are lifting weights. So if for some reason you can't progress to a heavier weight, maybe you have got a niggly injury and that's stopping you going a bit further, or perhaps you're not confident enough yet, you can always lower or keep the weight the same, but increase those reps, change the tempo, the timing, the pauses. There are lots of other ways that you can stimulate the muscles. So think of it that there's two ways that you stimulate the muscles: mechanical stress or metabolic stress. So whether you're fatiguing those muscle fibers by load or by reps, you need to be doing one of them. But when you do that and you increase those size of those muscle fibers, you're helping combat that age-related sarcopenia that I mentioned, which is more prevalent in women, and resistance training is going to just help you slower that progress. We don't really want that to happen. But what you'll find is, and this comes to my last point, when you start lifting those weights and you start getting into a routine, you're starting to see the results, you're starting to see your body change. Guess what you're going to notice as well? Your improved confidence. Unfortunately, again, through perimenopause and menopause, our confidence can take a real nosedive. I've had lots of women say that they they can't remember things, they're forgetful, they don't recognize themselves, they're sleep deprived, they feel unsure, they're anxious, they lack belief in their own abilities, and it can be a real wobbler of, well, it could be like 10, 20 years, depending on the menopause for every individual woman. Typically, it starts around the age of 51, but you can obviously go into perimenopause way earlier and still be in menopause for quite a long time after. That is a long time, and it can knock your confidence. Well, strength training gives that back to you because you are seeing that progress. Now, whether that is you lifting dumbbells, whether that's you using machines in the gym, or whether that is using a barbell, if you see yourself progressing with those weights or those exercises and you can see yourself getting stronger, you're starting to believe in your own abilities and your strength. And with that strength comes that confidence, that self-belief. And it's only through doing something consistently, and it sometimes being really challenging and overcoming those hurdles, that builds that confidence and that self-belief. And strength training, as I've seen it in so many women, and they've not thought that they could lift something. They're intimidated by the barbell and weight plates, worried about their back and worried about other injuries. And then when they put that to one side and they start lifting and they realise that they can actually do it, and they've had their form corrected so they know that they're doing it safely, how much that they enjoy it and how motivating and inspiring it is as well. Especially if you're in like a group class and you see other ladies lifting those weights, or you see it online, it makes you realise actually that you're more capable. So confidence, if you can improve the confidence or keep your confidence as it is, that is absolutely going to help you through the menopause, because so many things are happening. It just knocks us bandy, doesn't it, ladies? It's just, you can hear me now. It's like, forget the next word. We get the brain fog, and all of these things are going to help. If we lift weights, it's going to help with our mental clarity and our focus. It's going to help us better, and it's going to help us burn those calories. So, as I mentioned before, lifting weights can help you change your hormonal profile, how your body responds to them, and it can leave you feeling euphoric. It can give you that sense of confidence, not just in the gym, but everywhere else, in your job, your home life, everything. And that is so empowering to, as I said on my program, Sassy 10, sculpt a stronger and sexier you, to regain your sassy. You don't have to think that it's the end of the road, and you don't have to see menopause as depressing. A lot of it is down to the mindset that we adopt as well as we go through the menopause, how we are going to tackle it. It's going to wallop us in different ways, some harder than others. But if you can stay upbeat and positive and know that there are options out there, you know that there's support out there, and know that you can, then you can get through this, you can get through anything. And coming out the other side, you're going to feel so free, I think is the word. Absolutely free to then continue. And I strongly believe, and I'm very passionate about it, that being fit isn't just for the youngsters. It's even more important for us to still be training. And I'm looking, I've got this long-term goal of still being fit and active, providing I don't drop down dead, to be exercising up into my 90s. Now, whether that will be running, because I do still enjoy that, or whether it's some sort of strength training, I am going to keep on learning, growing, and challenging my body to see what it's capable of. And hopefully, through this process, reduce those menopausal symptoms that you can't eradicate. And naturally, if we need to go to the doctors to get that extra support with what's out there, go for it. I think there should be no judgment. everyone has to deal with it in their own way, and what works for one, it doesn't mean it's going to necessarily work for another. So we need to support one another. We need to be open about it. We need to say that it's okay, to share when we're not doing so well, and support each other when we are, and giving celebration to achievements and wins. And it's not about pulling anyone down, it's about supporting others. So going back into that about the fitness and what we should be doing, just to round it up, we are looking at doing moderate aerobic activity for at least 150 minutes a week, or at least 75 minutes a week if you are doing more vigorous aerobic activity. And these are, again, the standard guidelines, not just in the UK, but globally. And they do recommend strength training should be done at least twice a week. Now, don't forget gardening. That if you're humping stuff around in the garden, or you're moving kids into university campus or houses and stuff like that, well, that's a strength training if you're up and down steps humping boxes and things around. So don't get too confused about what it is. It just means moving weight. So whether that is that you go shopping and you carry heavy shopping bags home, that's almost like the farmer's carries. And that one's really good for your traps and your arms. You've got a lot of muscle groups working there, obviously, and your legs. So just try to incorporate those, some form of strength exercise twice a week, whether that's going to a gym, doing an online class, or getting out in the garden. We're hopefully going to get into better weather where you can do that more and more. So hopefully, I think, this has been useful to you. Do drop me a message on Instagram, Sassy10Fitness. I do have the podcast Instagram page as well, plant-based_FM. And I picked up the other handle, plant-based FM, plant-based fit mum. But I don't actually post on that handle. But do drop me a message. You can reach me via the website, www.sassy10.com. I'd be intrigued to hear what things you'd like to hear more on the podcast. If it's about the menopause, what things have you been struggling about? What would you like to hear or know or understand better? What guests could I bring to the show that you would like to listen to? So I want this to be an inclusive podcast. I want it to be supportive, empowering. It's plant-based, yes, because I am plant-based, and I think we should all eat more plants. But the FM is for fit mum. We can all be fit mums. We can all improve our fitness. We can all improve our mindset. We can all look to eating good food, and we can all look to grow muscle. So if you're with me on this journey, then please do head over to iTunes, go and leave it a star rating, hopefully 5. And if you've got time, then jot down a review. That would be absolutely awesome. And if you know anyone that you think would be a great guest to come on this show, then do let me know. Or if you believe that you've got a great story that you'd like to share with the world to help empower other women, then let me know that too. And until next time, I'll catch you then.